BioWare has a long history of impressing gamers with well-crafted characters and awesome gameplay in their video games. It wasn't until last year's Mass Effect Andromeda that BioWare really drew any decisive and united criticism from fans. Ending of Mass Effect 3 aside, Andromeda reviews spilled in from all corners of the internet and were mixed at best. Most reviewers noted the same complaints: unfinished and wonky facial and walking animations, uninspired objectives, and performance issues that at times seemed worse than some of BioWare's last-gen efforts. It wasn't long after the negative reviews made the rounds that complaints turned into memes and videos of particularly heinous sequences started to surface. Hilarious? Yes. But this was obviously not what BioWare had in mind for their multi-million-dollar, decade-old franchise. Compliments went to the improved combat, and there were certainly some areas of the game that looked positively stunning. Positivity generally stopped there, though. In light of the game failing to meet expectations and live up to the legacy of the franchise, the developers had decided not to release any major DLC for the game outside of patches, which was unfortunate to hear considering how expansive and interesting the Mass Effect universe really is. Exact sales figures don't appear to be available at this time, but some estimates are out there, and they mostly put the game around 2 million copies sold, which isn't terrible and certainly keeps it from being a complete commercial failure, but also it isn't nearly what it could have or should have been, considering what a juggernaut franchise it's a part of. Andromeda is a disappointment not because it didn't meet standards, but because it didn't exceed them. Thankfully, EA has BioWare hard at work on another brand new intellectual property, Anthem, which is currently being touted as a lot of things. It's a new science fiction franchise, it's a potential landmark game for graphics and performance, and in a way, it's EA's answer to Destiny, and may be poised to beat Destiny at its own game. But most interestingly, Anthem is being tasked with the responsibility of potentially being BioWare's do-or-die project. Now, we all know the high-stakes nature of video game development these days. All it really takes to sink a studio is one really bad game. Throughout the years of games getting to where they are now, the industry still hasn't really fully dealt with the problem of years and years of excellence counting for nothing when one game underperforms too badly. We've seen lots of great studios close their doors over this, and as unfortunate as it is, BioWare is not immune from this system. Thankfully, the fact that EA has acquired BioWare does provide a little bit of a cushion, and also it's not like Andromeda completely bombed. Despite the fact that it didn't totally meet expectations, Andromeda did still sell. Estimated sales figures do put it within range of some of the better selling games last year. The damage that was really done to BioWare wasn't so much financial as it was reputational. BioWare was synonymous with great games, and now that's not necessarily true for everybody. At least until their next project comes out, the game that will be linked with the name BioWare in a lot of minds is Mass Effect Andromeda, and for BioWare, that is a problem. However, so far, what we have seen of Anthem is impressive, and it could be exactly what BioWare needs. Top-notch graphics are on full display in the footage that's been released so far. Environments being heavily affected by weather elements and vivid lighting make up what could be one of the most atmospheric games we've seen in years. Cooperative online functionality was also shown off, and this is what really gives the EA's answer to Destiny vibe I mentioned before, and could potentially eclipse Activision's franchise, as there are certainly solid complaints about Destiny 1 and 2 that EA could easily avoid with Anthem. Some speculate that maybe this game was receiving more attention than Andromeda during Andromeda's development, and some of BioWare's more notable talent and resources were being diverted to Anthem from the get-go. This theory would explain why Andromeda made so many rookie mistakes after all, and it's not exactly a new tactic for developers to divide up their team into two hemispheres to increase productivity and put out more games in a shorter amount of time. And you can't blame a studio for trying this, as the amount of time and manpower that goes into making modern AAA games has certainly gone up over the years, while demand for them has never been higher. The key is dividing up your team responsibly. Talent needs to be present and evenly distributed in both the A team and the B team, and if it's not, the finished games will reflect that. I'm willing to bet that this is what happened to Mass Effect Andromeda, and the team saddled with Andromeda probably just wasn't quite where they needed to be to pull it off on their own. I did find it interesting that the new gameplay trailer for Anthem went out of its way to show off the excellent character models up close and the well-crafted facial animations, which of course was Andromeda's most prevalent points of complaint. They outsourced their facial facial animations, which sort of just gives rise to more questions than it answers. But regardless, there is no doubt that Anthem has more responsibility on its shoulders now than perhaps it was originally intended to have. Thankfully, mockery of Andromeda aside, it does appear that Anthem is on the right track to redeem BioWare and restore them to the reputation they so rightfully have earned over many years as one of gaming's senior studios, and a studio that can be trusted to deliver quality content to consumers. This wouldn't be the first time that a studio had pulled off a rebranding of this sort. In fact, it seems to be a phase that lots of studios go through at some point. Most studios can't say everything they've ever released has been great. Lessons need to be learned the hard way at least once for most studios, and it appears that with EA's financial backing, BioWare will survive and live to see another day. Without EA's backing though, this could have been a very different story. Most studios who underperform with a game don't get a second chance, so while studios being owned by larger companies might have a few drawbacks, being allowed to live on and continue to stay in business is surely hard to argue with at the end of the day. Will Anthem completely redeem BioWare? Well, if EA doesn't pull an EA and insert microtransactions in place of a progression system that resembles anything that makes sense to gamers, then yeah, it's a possibility. The jury is still out on how much danger BioWare is actually in from a financial standpoint, but surely they aren't quite where they would rather be, and Anthem is, at the very least, going to have to stop the bleeding.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.